have doubts about my microphone today. Seems to be working. Hi guys and welcome to today's video. So today I'm starting a new series based on ecology because I figured I could use my degree for something. So I'm gonna try and take some concepts. I'm not gonna explain everything because I don't know everything. But I'm gonna try and take some concepts about ecology and try to make them A, understandable for everyone, and B, funny to talk about and to listen to, because I think that the best way to educate people is to have like fun stories and examples and like concrete stuff. Concrete, is that a word? Today is like the introduction chapter, kind of like a new class in college when you know it's going to be useless, but you still go there because you know the teacher is going to give you the syllabus where you can see your grades and how much the attendance is worth in your final grade. So you go there because that's important. So ecology, I'm talking about the science, by the way, nothing to do with political point of views or whether you're Democrats, Republicans, left wing, right wing. Doesn't matter what you call your political parties in your country. To me, ecology, like being an ecologist and caring about the environment and our planet, shouldn't be something that is debated about in politics, because it should be everyone's problem. And that's all the politics we're going to get into today and forever. So ecology as a science is the branch of biology that deals with the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical surroundings. So basically, it's the science studying the relations between all living organisms, including us, and everything around us. There's a lot of different subsections to ecology, including molecular and cellular biology, which is basically studying ecology at a cell scale, so super small. It's incredibly interesting, and it is also the smallest scale where you can study ecology. And it goes all the way up to global ecology, so literally the entire solar system, which I'm sure is super interesting as well. But I haven't studied it that much, so I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. My main focus, personally, is somewhere in between that. It's called synecology. It is ecosystem scale. There's another big word. So studying interactions between living creatures and organisms and their surroundings at the scale of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. It sounds complicated, but basically it's a group of living creatures, living organisms, and their surroundings, so rocks, water, soil, air, anything around them. Not at a too small scale because it needs to be able to sustain itself and work on its own, so everything within this ecosystem has to be able to reproduce and find food and have water and stuff like that. So your body, for example, can't be an ecosystem at a human scale, but it is an ecosystem for like a virus or a bacteria in your stomach because it can sustain itself. So it's all about scales. Usually the ecosystems that I'm talking about are a forest as an ecosystem, or a lake, or a river and its surrounding. It has the ability to sustain life. We're good so far. So that's what I'm doing. I'm an ecosystem engineer. I'm studying ecosystems and how we impact them, how to protect them, and how to repair them if we have damaged them. And in this introduction, I did a bit of research to give you what I think are some important like dates and people to think about when we're talking about ecology. So it's going to be kind of a timeline. It's going to be just an overview, but I will cover some points from that timeline in future videos. If you have subjects or questions that you want me to address in future videos, please leave them in the comment section down below. So ecology is a relatively new science if you compare it to like physics or math or stuff like that that has been around forever. Ecology is relatively new. It started in the 18th century with a guy called Linné in French and Linnaeus in German or whatever his country. I think he was Swedish. Yeah, Swedish. He is basically the father of modern ecology, one of the founding father of modern ecology. He created a way to classify every living species and every plant and every animals and everything based in like families and groups and species and subspecies and stuff like that, called the Linnean taxonomy. We still use it today. If you see like Latin names for species that often have like a little L or L-I-N-N next to the name, and that means it's from the Linnean taxonomy, which was created in the early 18th century. A few other people dabbled with ecology in this century, but the next major breakthrough, and I'm sure you've all heard of it unless you're 6, and if you are, what are you doing on YouTube? I'm talking about Darwin. Darwin and the theory of evolution and natural selection. Darwin was saying that all species are what were, at a time, the most efficient configuration for their survival. It was revolutionary for the time, saying that natural selection due to habitat and how habitats were changing was shaping every single species on Earth. With Linney and a bunch of other people, he is considered to be the father of modern ecology as we know it right now. The last guy I'm going to mention is Ernst Haeckel, however you say that. He is a German biologist who is reported to be the first to use the word ecology to talk about the science of studying a relationship within organisms. So at this point, around 1870, ecology as a science was born. In 1872, the first ever national park was created. I'll give you a second to try and guess. Yep, that's right. Yellowstone National Park in the United States was the first ever national park. And although ecology was becoming more and more studied, especially by scientists from North America, it wasn't protected for ecological reasons. But just because someone walked there, I actually can't remember his name. I'll put it on the screen. Basically, this guy walked in walked in Yellowstone National Park and saw how beautiful it was and decided that it should be preserved for the future generations so that they could enjoy the landscape as well. And this, I think, is an amazing thing. Having no idea how important and how fragile the ecosystem was, this guy still said, I want to protect it. I want to make sure that it remains as untouched as possible, as wild as possible, as pristine as possible for the future generation. Just because it was beautiful. I think that's quite a cool story. We're now moving on to the 20th century, and around the 30s, so 1930s, two very important concepts emerge. The notions of ecosystem and landscape ecology. That was less than a century ago, to tell you like how young the science that me and other people are studying is, which is incredible because we're still making major discoveries because it is so young. Major discoveries such as in 1944, despite the world literally going to shit with Nazis and H-bomb and everything, the discovery of DNA in 1944. They discovered DNA, and that opens a whole new page of research in biology and how we could understand how species were interacting with each other, how similar they were, linking species from one to another, saying that we have, is it 96 I think percent DNA in common with a monkey and stuff like that. That was a major breakthrough in ecology and I think is worth mentioning. In the late 60s, 1960s, people started to worry a bit more about ecology and seeing more issues with it. But in 1972, the United Nations held the first major reunion, meeting around the topic of global environmental degradation. In 1972, over 45 years ago, they were already talking about how bad it was. And look at us today. In 1988, a very important concept emerged, biodiversity. It is a very crucial notion in ecology, and the fact that it is 30 years old blows my mind. Like, my ex is older than the idea of biodiversity. The official definition of biodiversity is the variety of plant and animal life in the world or in a particular habitat, a high level of which is usually considered to be important and desirable. In 1992 was the very famous Rio Summit for the Earth, where 157 countries signed an agreement to preserve biodiversity. In 1995, over 160 countries came to Berlin to debate about climate change and greenhouse gases, but they failed to come to an agreement. They failed to come to an agreement on reducing greenhouse gases, so they didn't sign anything until 1997, so 2 years later. From there, everything around ecology is getting faster, which is good, with loads of conventions, loads of meetings and talking about climate change and whether or not it is our fault. Loads of people, loads of country, loads of talking, just to agree that it is getting worse. No shit, Sherlock. I'm gonna end this timeline with a strong note. In 2007, 10 years ago, the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. I hate this word, I'm just gonna call them IPCC, and I'm gonna quote them quite a lot because they are gods of climate change. It is a panel of over 500 experts, like actual experts, from loads of different countries from all over the world. And they agreed 10 years ago, alright, they agreed that the rapid and global warming of the climate was mainly because of human causes. And they included scenarios of what the climate could look like in a century. That was 10 years ago. A decade. And they are now, I believe, on report number 6, still saying that it is our fault, still saying that it is going to get worse. It is actually getting worse. Like, if you actually read reports 1 to 6, they're available online. I didn't read them entirely, I'm gonna admit that. But the conclusions are just getting worse and worse and worse every time. Despite literally 500 people agreeing, 500 scientists, not just like random people, agreeing that it is our fault, we still do nothing or not enough. So that was my quick overview of things that happened in the world of ecology, which is a brand new science, brand new as in like 3 centuries, so it's quite new science. I intend to make this a series, so if you are a scientist, like actual ecologist, you might not learn anything, but if you're just interested in ecology, I might teach you a few things, so stay tuned. Do tell me if you enjoy those more like sciencey videos, even though today was more like historical class video. I'll try to make at least an episode a month. Don't quote me on that because I probably won't, but I'm gonna try. If you have topics or questions related to ecology, do leave them in the comment section down below. You can click here to subscribe to my channel so that you get notification every time I upload and you don't miss the next episode of Science with Mel, or whatever I call this video. You can go click here to watch last week's video, which was me self-promoting my event around cystic fibrosis. I hope you'll have a great week and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye bye!